All right, Mikhail Kasyanov is a former prime minister of Russia and someone considered liberal, also someone who was dismissed by President Putin, probably for those Western-leaning views. He has been harassed and arrested in Russia for opposing President Putin, and he joins me now from Moscow. Good to see you, Mikhail, again.
Hello, good to see you.
How are you personally doing? You're locked down like everybody else in Russia. You're at home with your family. It's been a number of weeks now.
Yeah, that's already months and a half. 8 weeks we're already sitting at home and self-isolation, and the regime imposed in Russia, I mean just regime, it's not emergency situation, but something mixture. People don't quite understand which law is applicable right now, but people try to follow the government's instructions, but some people don't. But we see the situation is not good. It's not very good. 10,000 infections every day, the virus spreading, and it is quite a concern.
Are they handling this the right way?
I don't think so. First of all, that was a late reaction. And secondly, just economic financial support of people and businesses absolutely poor. And I think that will be a dramatic development during this year. I think we would lose more than 5% of GDP because Putin's government doesn't do anything in support. I think we will lose more than 10% of GDP. They're shrinking the economy by the end of this year. And we'll see what will happen just in a few days when Mr. Putin is going to address to people again to extend or just to announce just the rules of getting out of lockdown, but such a situation with the spreading of virus creates some kind of concerns what the government will do. People don't know.
Is he losing his grip? I mean, people seem frustrated there. And there is not the kind of economic aid that we're seeing in other countries. And a lot of business people that, that I still talk to say that they may never recover from this.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem, political problem for Mr. Putin. He's losing his, I would say, popularity, if we can say so. In fact, it was not 85%, but was like 45, 50%. And he is losing this public support, and especially in big cities when people realize, educated people living in the middle class, and they realize that they're losing their money, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their businesses, and just there is no response.
He originally downplayed this. Downplayed this. And now he's outside of Moscow, appearing occasionally on television. But to me, and I want to do a reality check with you, he doesn't look like the tough guy we normally see, the captain of the ship, that somehow, to me, as he usually does, that he's delegated a lot of this to others, and he just doesn't seem himself. What do you think?
Yeah, you picked up just an interesting feature. That's correct. He looks unusually, I would say, not strong enough, although he uses the same strong words to express that everything is under control and everything just in operation. But in fact, he doesn't know what to do because his political plan was to have amendments to Constitution, to make a zero platform for himself, to be another 1 or 2 terms as a president of Russia. He losing this time. He cannot make this voting. Just it's not a referendum, but some kind of approval, people's approval. But right now, I don't think just people would go to vote, and he understands these. And in fact, just the May 9th parade of victory over Nazi Germany was postponed, and all these events he planned as a political agenda, as raising his popularity and demonstrating his, I would say, power and strength. All those features disappeared, and now just he had to allocate funds. He has a lot of funds, 10% of GDP and government reserve funds. It's not international reserves of central bank. That's another 500 billion of US dollar. But we're talking about 10% of GDP in ruble, which is a budgetary fund, which this fund was created by me. specifically for such, I would say, black days. These black days came, but Putin doesn't react. And people asking this question, why these funds are not used to help them.
He had to cancel the referendum to extend his term, to make constitutional amendments. But I mean, maybe that's not very significant because he'll just hold it again at another time.
It's significant for him because it was his decision and he wanted his decision to be supported. If it's not supported, that's already some kind of weakening. And he understands this, and people would immediately start looking at him as a, I would say, the not quite strong president. And that's very important psychologically for himself. He doesn't want to be looked at as weak. That's why just in everyday operation, it doesn't mean much. You're correct, just expressing this. But from the point of view of just the strength of Mr. Putin and his reaction of all what's going on around, that's important. Important to get finalized, this plan to be finalized, but it is not.
You and I have known each other a long time. I mean, I followed you around Russia when you were campaigning to run as an opposition president. And you told me once that if oil slips, and I know you spend a lot of time on economics, that if oil prices slip, the economy slumps, that people who put up with Putin's authoritarian regime will tire of it very quickly and he will lose power. Do you think we're there now?
That's not the case, but of course, I would say such fluctuations in their minds, that's already in place. And that's why that's so important for Mr. Putin not to spend money, because just the reserve fund, that's the only feature of a strengthening of his power. He understands that his popular support is quite low and falling down. And that's why he doesn't want to spend money, because just to have this helicopter money, that's important for him just later this year, even later this year. Because just in a few months, some kind of not organized demonstration will start to appear, because people are already complaining that they have nothing to feed their children, and that's why just the patience could lose very soon.
It's interesting that on mainstream television, of course, you know, people carry the Kremlin's message, because you and I both know that the main channels are programmed by the Kremlin every day. So there's no freedom of press there. But people who live inside Russia, who follow a lot of the internet traffic and the digital traffic, say that the mood is changing and that there are a lot of jokes and there is a lot of anger and there is a lot of criticism of Putin and the prime minister and others.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. The negative attitude to Putin is growing, and that's why people are expecting what his new announcement would be on the 11th or whatever, 12th of May, for extending the lockdown period, or just and giving money, or just starting to ease the lockdown and just taking the risks of 1,000 people just to be died because of a virus spreading further on. That's what the interesting development. And it's difficult time, hard time to Mr. Putin to decide. And in fact, he should start spending money to support people. He announced the program only for 1.8% of GDP, while all other European countries having this support with the maximum of or minimum of 10% of GDP of their support. And Putin has this money. That is not some kind of difficult, I would say, issue to find some way to borrow, etc. That's already existing fund to start spending and supporting small and medium-sized businesses and people in particular directly, those people who losing their jobs and they have no money to feed their families. That is the issue, the critical issue. This is will be in a few days, and then people's minds started to, I would say, to crystallize in a negative manner just very, very rapidly.
Mikhail Kasyanov, the former prime minister of Russia, a Democrat, somebody whose opinion I always respect and perspective we appreciate. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you for your nice words, Dana. The interview was great. Thank you. Great to talk to you.
Stay healthy.
You too. Bye. Take care.